G'day ECU students, Monty King here from the Academic Skills Centre in the Faculty of Business and Law at ECU, and in this short video I'm going to take you through the assignment instructions for Essay 2 for CRI1103. In this session we'll look at the feedback that you might have received from your first essay. We'll identify some of the common errors that students made here, and then I'll talk a little bit about unpacking the Essay 2 task instructions and giving you some tips for improving your assignments generally. Then I'll give you my email address for any questions you might have. It's important that when you look at your previous essay, essay number 1, look at the tutor's comments. If you're not happy with your first mark, don't delete it, don't burn it, don't ignore that paper. It's very important that you look at the feedback. Where did you go wrong? What comments did the tutor make that would suggest where you can improve? What can you do to fix this for next time? So what areas do you need to work on? Remember, in the unit plan it says here, you are strongly encouraged to use the feedback you received on your first assignment to make improvements to your essay writing for this assignment. This is university speak for if you make changes and respond to your feedback, you will get a good mark. So remember, it's important to learn from your mistakes. Some of the common errors in Essay 1, the most common error I think was using informal and non-academic language. Remember to avoid emotive language. We are criminologists here, not crime writers. Even though some of the subjects we cover are quite emotional, it's important to be objective. Students write sentences like, everywhere you look, minorities are discriminated against. Is this true? Everywhere you look? It's a bit of a blanket statement, but try to be objective here and support any statements you make with evidence from references, and beware of general statements with words like everywhere. Also remember that you is not suitably academic either. Avoid using you or I when writing academically. Watch out for phrasal verbs. For example, some students wrote lock up instead of imprison. Imprison is far more academic. And also watch out for contractions. Write do not, but don't write don't. Another common essay error was incorrect referencing. Just watch out. In text, you can introduce a reference in a number of different ways. This is the two most common ways. You can use a phrase like according to, and then the author's name with the year in brackets, or you can put it at the end of the sentence. Remember that when the author's surnames are outside the brackets, use AND for and, but when the authors are inside the brackets, use the ampersand symbol, which is next to the 7 on your keyboard. Then end text, remember, you need author surname, so you're trying to show who, when, what, the title of the article, where it came from. And here, for example, because this is a journal article, you should be able to find a DOI, which is the Digital Object Identifier. In-text reference, of course, all your in-text references should appear in the in-text references. If you don't use a reference in-text, don't include it in the in-text references. Just as a bit of a guide, remember that there are a lot of good references available online. One that we like to recommend is the Massey Universe APA Interactive Guide. It's available here, and it shows you through examples of books, edited book chapter, journal article, web page, magazine article, report, etc., etc., etc. And also, of course, try the ECU Library Referencing Guide, which you can find at this link below. Another common error was sentence and paragraph structure. For example, students often used run-on sentences like this one here. Minorities are often overrepresented in the criminal justice system. Minorities are held in custody for longer periods. So we've got this repetition of minorities, and there's sort of a comma here where really there are two separate clauses with this repetition. Instead, if you can get rid of this repetition, you can also get rid of this clause by writing minorities are often overrepresented in the criminal justice system and are held in custody for longer periods, with your reference at the end. So watch out for that use of punctuation. I often recommend to students to read your drafts aloud, and when you need to breathe, it's time to put in punctuation. Reading aloud will get you that feeling for the flow of your writing. Give it a try. Okay, so you've got to choose one of two topics for the second assessment. Remember that they need to be clearly structured as an academic essay, an argumentative academic essay, and ATQ, answer the question. Everything that you contribute to the essay should directly relate to the question asked. And remember, you have to have a minimum of 10 journal articles in your references, plus your textbooks, criminology reports, etc. Question 1, the media's portrayal of crime affects the public perception of crime. Okay, you're going to try search terms for these content words, things like media and crime. Be careful of things like media portrayal, because portrayal is quite a specific word and might not bring up a lot of results. But I would try combinations of media and crime and public perception, and also use your refined search terms to look for journal articles specifically. Remember here that in this question you have to argue for or against. I wouldn't decide which way you are going to argue until you've done some reading on the topic and see what evidence you can find first. You might start out thinking that you are quite against this proposition, but you might find by the end of your reading that your opinion has changed. Also remember, you need to provide research evidence, and that's going to come from the journal articles that you find. They will do things like have case studies of particular systems, look at surveys given to offenders and victims, literature reviews looking at what's been written on this topic before. So make sure you get a range of these different sources. For the second topic, explain the relationship between drug use and crime. Again, I think you're going to use drug use and crime as your keywords for the keyword search. That would be a good place to start. This question here, would legalizing illicit drugs reduce criminal behaviour? I know there's been a lot written on this topic, and you might be able to look internationally at countries like the Netherlands, Sweden, Portugal. So it's a yes-no question, and then you need to find the evidence to support your argument and your position. So some general tips for improving your essay. Start with a strong introduction. Give a background statement just generally about the topic you choose, and then link that to the specific question. Kath would like to see that you acknowledge the opposing side. Whichever side you take, it's important that you also acknowledge that there is evidence to suggest the opposite. But don't go into too much detail at this stage. And then write that preview statement, that thesis statement, which explains how your essay is organised. And it often says something along the lines of, this essay will. Then move into your body paragraphs. Nice clear paragraphs, nicely marked with a line spacing so you can see the paragraphs clearly. Nice clear topic sentences which introduce the idea, and then sentences which build evidence into your argument using the references that you've researched. Remember, keep focused on the question, make sure that each paragraph relates back to the question, plan your paragraphs out before you start writing, and answer the question. Remember to acknowledge the other side of the argument towards the beginning of your essay. Use references to summarize any opposing arguments, and then also briefly mention this towards the conclusion. Finish with a conclusion which summarizes your main points, and you should have no new information in your conclusion. It's simply a summary and relates back to the thesis statement. As a guide, look at the marking guide on page 12 of the unit plan, and also there's the marking rubric on page 18. And after you've finished your final draft, mark your paper. Think about, okay, have I met all the requirements to get a good mark with this paper? And be objective, be harsh on yourself, and you might need to make some changes before you're ready to hand in your final essay. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me at this address. I'm on campus Monday to Thursday, and I'm available to have a look at students' drafts. I'll look at the first 2 pages, give you some feedback and give some suggestions. Otherwise, good luck, and remember to respond to that feedback from your first essay, and I'm sure you do well. Cheers.